Welcome back to the podcast, Aimee. I'm so excited to have you on.
Thank you, Michelle. I think this is my third time, is it? Yeah.
Maybe fourth, I feel
Oh, that's
like.
exciting. Thank you.
So, first of all, congratulations on the new edition of Yes, You Can Get Pregnant, which is so exciting. We had a little pre-talk, and I'm very excited to start picking your brain on that.
Yeah, it's been an exciting revision. I think, as I was saying to you before we started recording, it was about 10 years. It's really 11 years since I wrote the first version. And it's really awesome to see. I mean, it's not awesome to see the increased rise in fertility challenges like that. We've gone up like at least another 10 to 20% of women impacted. And now male factor is a huge piece. But what I enjoyed seeing was so much of the content, and the recommendations that I made 11 years ago that you and I have been making since we've, been out of grad school, all about living in accordance with the Tao and getting back in touch with nature and doing things like simply and like circadian rhythm, which we didn't really even have a term for. I guess we did have a term, but we didn't really use that, or nervous system work, all of that. What I found validating, I think, is the amount of research that's come out in the last 10 years, kind of validating all the things, like validating, no, we do need more natural light. The blue light is doing damage. Sperm health clearly has significantly declined. The environmental toxins are really seriously doing damage. Ultra processed foods. So there's just this vast volume of research now that backs up much of what we were taught and have been, educating others on for if we count Chinese medicine, for thousands of years. So
Yeah.
that part is fun, to just, I was telling you before we went live too, like my citations and resources in the book like went up 10x, if not more. Like my editor was like, we have to actually just have its own PDF that people can download for this. There's way too many citations in the book. Like I didn't account for that in the page number. So, that's fun. And then I increased, content around, preparing for IVF. It's its own chapter now. Improving egg and sperm quality over the age of 35 has its own chapter now. Ovarian rejuvenation, I did a chapter with Dr. Zahir Murhi and talked about ozone and PRP and HBOT and laser and peptides. And, so lots of, I think, we've really brought all of the newer information to the plate and into the book. And so that's exciting. And I hope it's used as, almost like an encyclopedia of resources. Like, it's just got so much information and really, so I think still has that, that deeply empowering message of like, you have a lot of power here, and here are the ways you can connect the dots for yourself. Because, again, as we were discussing before we went live, that, we now know, and I think that the research really supports this, that most all unexplained fertility challenges have an explanation, and they're rooted in inflammation, immune disorders, maybe structural issues, not just all your eggs are bad because you're over the age of 35, which can't wait for that stigma to just leave the room.
100%. Oh my God. Totally. I feel the same way. And it's exciting. What's exciting is that we're coming on a lot of amazing research and new technology. PRP is exciting. I
Yes.
definitely want to pick your brain on that. Because I've heard, there's obviously, I've had doctors that were like, no, maybe it's not safe for the ovaries, but I know Dr. Murray's had a lot of great success with it, and you work
Yeah,
closely
and then
with
there
him.
was a recent meta-analysis that was not, he did not do that research. That was someone looking at all the research that's been going on, right? Meta-analysis, obviously, showing, yeah, it has marked impacts on improving AMH, antral follicle count, blastocyst rate, IVF outcomes, and so I still feel, and what I see clinically, and feel good about saying is, I think 50%, 50 of the cases that do the ovarian PRP see positive benefits, and 50% just don't see any benefits, but I don't see negatives.
Okay, that's amazing. So what are some of the positive benefits you've seen?
the AMH going up, the antral follicle count, more, if women are doing IVF, you see just more get fertilized, more get to blast.
Wow, amazing. I've seen that happen. I've seen it where I've talked to people up north that went to see him, and they were trying to conceive naturally, and it wasn't working for years, and then
Yeah.
they went to see him, and a couple of months later, because it does take, I guess, a couple of
Yeah.
months for it to really like
Kick
show
in.
up. And
Yeah.
then they would get pregnant like
Mhm.
naturally. So I'm like, okay, well, obviously it must have done something.
Yeah, I think it is your own growth factors. And so I think for all the listeners, human growth hormone was like kind of the hot ticket for a while, like add HGH to your protocols. This is your own HGH. That's how I would look at that. These are
Yeah.
your own growth factors. And that's I think that's even better than borrowing from, however the human growth hormone is being made or created and where it's coming from. And then, it is basically like the other thing that we really know now and can confidently say is we don't run out of eggs. Like, yes, the pool is declining, but we now know that even women in menopause, and this is, I think there's multiple research studies that show the same thing at this point. Women in menopause still have about 1,000 eggs left in their ovaries. And so it's not about running out. It's not about the pool. I mean, the pool declines. I'm not saying that, but you don't just wake up and one day they're all gone. It's really about they start losing communication, they go dormant. And what the PRP seems to be doing is waking up those dormant follicles,
Amazing. And
getting them
then
back in the game, not creating new ones. Now, there are people doing, and Murphy's one of them, but there's other people as well doing stem cell
mhm.
outside of the US because that's not currently legal. That theoretically is actually causing you to create new eggs in your ovaries.
That's incredible.
That's
Let's
insane.
talk about that a little bit. I know it's not in the US, but I'm just really curious. So what is that technology? Because that sounds really cool.
I mean, they're using placental stem cells. So they're buying them from, I think there's a bank in Colorado actually that is doing it. You can get them in different places, like Panama's a big place. I think Dubai is another place. And these are so placental cord blood stem cells.
Hmm.
That these are apparently, it's the word like omnipotent, like they can become anything, and they don't have to be your cord blood stem cells. They can be anyone's.
Hmm.
It's just like a bank of these stem cells, and then you do the PRP, so you draw the blood, do the platelets, you're mixing that in with these stem cells and then injecting that into the ovaries, and then new eggs should be theoretically created. It's hard to know for certain if that's happening because I don't think anyone's done like a test of like staining the old ones to see what happens with the new ones. You know what I mean? Like, because we're human
It's
trials,
new.
that's
Yeah.
kind of hard to do. Perhaps it's being done on the animal model, but then people would argue, is that the same? So I have seen girls with like POI, like they're
Hmm.
young, they premature ovarian insufficiency, like they got nothing, they're not cycling, that kind of thing, or women in menopause. And it seems to be kind of bringing them out of that. Again, not working for everyone. And there's really not enough. I haven't seen enough of my clients do it clinically for me to have like a solid, like, go and do it. And Dr. Murphy would say he likes to like layer it in, first to start with regular PRP. Then
Hmm.
he does the adipose, which is where he's getting stem cells from your own fat cells.
Hmm.
And that can be done in the US. And then there's the stem cells that's happening, for him in the Bahamas. And there's also people doing mitochondrial replacement therapy. There's like CNY is doing that in Mexico.
Hmm.
There's whatever doctor his name is in Albania is doing it. Murphy's doing it. I think there's a guy in Spain doing it. That's where you're borrowing mitochondria from a donor egg and
Hmm.
taking out your older mitochondria or malfunctioning mitochondria and switching that. So it's still your genetics. You
Hmm.
still need donor eggs, but you're not borrowing biology and genetics. You're just borrowing mitochondria.
Right,
Fast.
which has a different set of genetics anyway
Yeah,
than your
exactly.
own body.
Yeah. So it's, the technology is cool. I think it's moving at a rapid pace, like from what I can see. I also, there was recently a post, Dax Shepard had said something recently, like I told my girls that when they turn 18, I'll pay for them to freeze their eggs. And any,
Hmm.
that went viral. And I think he said it like on people.com or something like that. And, I did a story on it because I was like, I think this is great. Like, I think first of all, it's nice that, he has the money that he can do that. Not everybody has those resources
Hmm.
and the ability, but B, by the time his children are 18, that's like another decade or so, if not more, we might not need eggs. We might
Hmm.
be able to generate them just from any of your DNA. So a swab inside the cheek. And when I first wrote Yes, You Can Get Pregnant, I had interviewed Dr. Hugh Taylor. I think he still is the head of reproductive medicine at Yale. And he said to me, he's like, yeah, probably in 10 to 15 years, I'll actually be out of a job. He's like, because we'll be able to make eggs from swabbing the inside of a cheek. Like, we'll be able to just generate eggs for you at whatever age you are inside a lab, and then fertilize that, make an embryo. And that is being done.
Hmm.
I don't know that it's been done human wise, but
Hmm.
it's definitely being done in a lab. I'm not sure whose eggs they're using, some mammal, but that's
That's
interesting and
fascinating.
fascinating too. Yeah.
Well, they're mammals. I mean, we're mammals, so
Yeah.
there's got to be, if it works, there's got to be some way to make
Yeah.
it work on humans as well.
And I think that's part of the research that's going on that I think is also really amazing. And I hope everyone who's listening gets, time to have access to it. But like studying, why are we the only mammals that actually can't procreate after a certain age? Like, why do our
Hmm.
eggs go dormant? What is that piece? There's a little bit looking to the kisspeptin and that peptide, and apparently that, I guess, declines with age, and that keeps the ovarian reserve abundant. I've had some patients use the kisspeptin peptide. I've not seen any success with that. Um,
Hmm.
but kind of researching why do we downregulate our reproduction at a certain time in our life, and why do men not? And so looking at other mammals, trying to understand that. I think it's interesting and cool. I remember not that long ago getting kind of bullied and attacked on Instagram for saying, like, do we really run out of eggs? Like, are we really running out of eggs? And a couple, doctors came after me for like spreading misinformation. And I was like, but it's not. There's a guy, Jonathan Tilley, he's been studying this for over 20 years now, out at Northwestern or Northeastern. I always confuse them. But his name is definitely Jonathan Tilley, and he's the head of biology at one of those universities. And he's showing, like, no, there's ovarian stem cells that we have. You can see people that like went through chemo or radiation on their ovaries, but then somehow we're still able to produce follicles and have children. Like, that doesn't make any sense. And
Hmm.
so, targeting and like really trying to understand what else is going on. We also know women haven't been a part of research, until very
This is
recently.
so
And so
true. This is a
we
big
can,
deal.
we
Like,
based
people don't realize.
yeah, we base that theory of like eggs are finite, you're running out of eggs, on research from the 1960s that looked at rhesus monkeys and rats. It was never repeated in a human model for almost 40 years. It was a mathematical model looking at rats and rhesus monkeys over time and saying,
Hmm.
oh, okay, so the reserve does go down. So that happens to women. That's it. You run out of eggs.
Hmm.
That was the theory. No one questioned
Scientific
it.
dogma.
Yeah, it's an age-old dogma. No one has questioned it until fairly recently, and I think now we're getting a lot more information out there, and some of these medical facts are shifting and changing. You're still going to run into the old school docs who are just going to kind of dig their heels in. I mean,
Hmm.
I think too, though, aging does age us. So our mitochondria become less effective and cellular division less effective. So we're more prone to chromosomal or genetic issues the older we are, but I don't think it's definitive. Just because you're 47, you have X amount of, chances or X amount of chromosomal things that are going to happen. No, that's not the case. We can all age differently. So it's like I tell people whenever they like push me on things, I'm like, just start looking into the world of regenerative medicine. Like, that's where you
Hmm.
should start, because it hasn't yet touched fertility yet. I mean, it's starting to, I think, with doctors like Murray and things like that. But um, that's where it's at. I mean, we're seeing
Yeah.
this. We're seeing it
Yeah.
with the peptide explosion. We're seeing it with, just the anti-aging, like the mitochondrial explosion. We're learning more about food and environment and toxins, and they're aging us. I think one of the studies that I pulled for the new version of Yes, You Can Get Pregnant, I might not quote it exactly, but it was the exposure to ultra processed foods and AMH levels, and that women who ate more ultra processed foods than those who did not had much lower AMH. And when you removed the ultra processed foods from their diet, within 3 months, their AMH on average doubled.
Wow. That's so significant. That's like not just like a
That's
little thing.
insane.
Yeah.
But like, yet we're told
Yeah.
AMH, that's it. This is your
Yep.
number,
Yep.
like the way they used to talk about FSH. They don't, not as much, they don't say that as much of, oh, well, it can change, whereas it used to be like, this is the gold standard. It never
Yep.
changes. You're
Yeah, it's
only
a
as
snapshot in
minus this
time.
weight.
It's so crazy. But you know what's really funny, Amy? I actually had the same question as you about, are we really born with all the eggs that we'll ever
No,
have?
there's no way.
And I remember seeing a study that was done on a cancer drug. I don't know, you probably are familiar with it, where they used it. I think it had to do with the ovaries, but they noticed that the ovaries would have more follicles.
That's right.
And they said,
That's like,
wait,
and Jonathan Tilley, that's what he's looking at. That's the research,
okay,
because it started with, that's what triggered the research. It started with
yes.
these cancer patients where they were like,
Hmm.
wait, the ovaries should be dead. Like this,
Yes.
there's no, why are they, how do they have cells? How are they actively making follicles? Because I think it was direct chemo or radiation, directed at the ovaries. It was like
Hmm.
ovarian cancer patients, right? I think
Hmm.
that's,
Something like that. It was
yeah,
something to do with it. Like, I think it was ovarian cancer. And then they weren't, of course, expecting that to
yeah,
be a result of the
yeah.
drug.
I think, I think truthfully, there's so much we don't know, and I would much rather everyone say that than to
Hmm.
say, no, this is the truth. This is what we function on. This is finite. That doesn't show intelligence, right? I think there's some study out there or some quote that's like, the number one way to like see a lack of intelligence is to see people who just like are unwilling to see it be another way. It's just like, okay, you're not thinking outside the box. And that's what I always tell our patients of like, okay, you're clearly not getting the results you want.
Hmm.
We need to find a new team who's willing to think outside the box, who's willing to try
Yes.
different things. Like that's what we need. We can't keep doing the same thing and expect different results. But then also like, talking about aging, like then how do we define, like you and I both have had women in their late 40s do it. Like
Hmm.
how do you
Yeah.
define that then? How do
Yeah.
you say it can they just be these anomalies? But you and I, if we're talking about the relative population, we have smaller practices, you know what I mean? But like
Hmm.
all of us in the acupuncture world, we all probably are like, yeah, I've had 47-year-olds. I've had
Hmm.
48-year-olds. I've seen like Murphy's had 50-year-olds, 51-year-olds with their own eggs.
Well, the
How
oldest
is that
woman who was
possible? It's
59
really,
years old naturally had a baby, Dawn Brooks in England. And I always compare it to the Roger Bannister effect, where the guy wins the 7 minute, the 4 minute mile, he breaks the 4 minute mile. And then like months after
that's,
that, a bunch of people break it. Like,
that's right.
why? Why did nobody break it up until somebody broke
That's
it?
right. And I think about that too in my practice. I feel like the more almost like geared in I've gotten, or the more I've seen and the more hope. I used to think like 44, 45 was kind of the cutoff. And now I'm like, I've had 48-year-olds do it. So
Hmm.
why can't you? And also like, and I know we're reaching all these different conversations and you and I are both, holistic experts, but I also think perimenopausal support the right way for a woman still trying to conceive, using things like bioidentical HRT can be
Hmm. Yes.
extremely beneficial. And we maintain the cycle. Like we're using estrogen when we're supposed to, progesterone when we're supposed to. If they need testosterone or DHEA, obviously we're testing, we're not guessing. I'm not saying go out there and start taking bioidentical HRT, but I mean, even for me, I'm 51. My cycle has been wonky this year for the first time. But up until, and I've been playing with bioidentical HRT for probably 3 to 4 years, and I don't have any. My FSH is still in a good range. I don't have any hot
Hmm.
flashes. I don't have vaginal dryness. I still have a sex drive, like all these things. So, like, I think what I started to do and play around with was like, I'm extending things, like, I'm giving myself, and then hopefully I'm kind of missing this like big dip, right? Which we know is what comes with all the health events, or negative health events. But I think about for our women with perimenopause, I mean, what we were doing, even from just a natural perspective, is like, yeah, we're just nourishing and improving blood flow and circulation. We're preventing things from kind of stopping and slowing down. We're keeping them going. And then
Hmm.
if you want to add in a little HRT that's bioidentical, I think
Right.
it changes the game.
It does, for sure, 100%. And it's something that we have available. And I do think that obviously the bioidentical aspect of it makes a
More
difference
important.
too.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, why not use what we have?
Yeah.
And now they're finding that it's not as bad as they
Oh
originally
God. I
said,
mean, we knew that all
which is a
along. I'm
big
like, well, they're
deal.
looking at,
Yeah.
we're looking at one study
Yeah.
based on one
Well, this is what
hormone,
happens.
and they
Yeah.
extrapolated it across the board. And it's
Yeah.
like, and that's like, that's what I mean of like, take some responsibility. You know what I mean? Like, that's unfair. That is so unfair what you
Yeah.
did. So
Yeah.
unfair.
It is. But it's like, who has the mic? That's really what it is. I mean,
Who's loud enough?
ultimately.
Yeah.
And
And
then,
who's got the deeper pockets? You know, I
yep.
mean, it's layers and layers. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So I wanted to talk to you about rapamycin. That's another hot topic that's coming out about older women
Yeah.
trying to conceive.
Yeah. It impacts the mTOR pathways, right? Which, yeah, I might not know the entire pathway, but basically helps improve mitochondrial function. And it's a drug that's been used for organ transplants
Hmm.
for many, many, many years. And people have started playing around with it for fertility. I think Dr. Aimee, the egg whisperer, not me, started using it in her practice. I think she's doing something like 3 to 4 grams a week.
So yeah, at a
And
much lower dose,
much
just
lower dose, like almost
if
like a
listening
microdosing, but
than what it
it's kind of,
used to
it's
be.
considered at this point like a longevity medicine, right? And
Hmm.
so, but then there was a recent study. So there's now 2 studies that are going on. I think one at Columbia here in New York, and there was another one going on someplace else that they published, and it was still a decent size of women, I think a couple hundred. And they did 1 milligram of rapamycin per day for 21 to 28 days, kind of depending on the woman. And then they compared them to a control group. But what's cool is they also had comparisons to previous IVF cycles for these women.
Mm,
The women in the rapamycin group had more eggs retrieved, more blastocysts, and I think higher pregnancy rates.
that's
So much so
exciting.
that the day that study came out, I actually was in the clinic with Murray, and I ran into him, and he was like, "That's it, rapamycin for everyone." Like
Yeah.
it's like I'm sold, like sold.
Wow.
And you can, you know, I mean, again, I don't think everybody should be treating themselves like this, but you can get that
You
online.
can
The
get
same place
a
you get the low dose
ageless
naltrexone.
RX.
Yeah,
Yeah.
HSRX, man, you can get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think you have to be smart though. You're not supposed to conceive while you're on it. You do it before a cycle or before before an IVF cycle or before a natural conception cycle. You're not doing it during. So you have to think about that. You have to take time off.
Yes.
I strongly would recommend though that someone is managing the case and you're not just doing it on your own.
Right.
And then how many cycles do you repeat it for? That I don't know. I think this study was just that one clip of the 21 to 28 days. So I'm not sure about like the way Dr. Amy's doing it's a little different, right? Where these people, they're just on it.
Hmm. Right.
And I can't speak to that, but she's been, she was the first one to use human growth hormone in California. And then she
Hmm.
hopped on the PRP bandwagon like very early on. And then she's been the first one using rapamycin as well.
Amazing. And then there's something else that piqued my interest is senolytics.
Yeah.
So like things like Fisetin, you just
Semaglutide
take once
and
a month.
yeah. Oh, the
Um,
Fisetin, is that what you said?
Fisetin, yeah, you
Yeah.
take it once a month, I think for 3 or 5 days, depending on the product. And it helps get rid of senescent
Yeah.
cells,
Yeah.
zombie cells.
We just redid Rejuva Repair, the supplements that I have with Murray and Mark. And we're adding Fisetin at like the daily, like the regular low level dose to it because it's very promising, or
Hmm.
it's interesting, I'll say, but we had a call with our formulator. It's got to be at least 6 months ago. And he said to us, he was like, Fisetin is the next one you're going to hear the most about from a
Hmm.
mitochondrial perspective, from like a senolytic perspective. And there's a couple of cool sites. What's the one? It's oral peptides. Oh my God, Healthgevity. And it's
Hmm.
Healthgevity with a G. And it's healthgev.com. You can
Hmm.
put it in the show notes, but they have some really awesome
Oh, Rev
products.
Genetics
Different
or
one.
Health Gen. Oh, okay, Healthgevity.
Healthgevity, but it's all
Healthgevity.
these really smart PhDs, and it's all oral. So
Oh,
they have the
interesting.
BPC 157, they have the
It's great.
PEA, they have they have like a semorelin, like they have some kind of senolytic multi kind of thing. They're not
Amazing.
inexpensive. And there's also not a ton of data around for it, but like cool, interesting. But I agree, it's like these things, like even astaxanthin, like we've known about that one, but that's another one that I think deserves attention.
Antioxidant. Yeah, very,
Yeah.
very good one. And also, what I saw, the studies on fisetin was that in, I think it was rats, it brought back ovulation or
Yeah.
delayed menopause,
Delayed menopause.
or
Yeah.
ovarian aging. And then there was also studies on endometriosis as well.
Oh, really? Well, because
Yeah,
like also because
it's
we know it's
interesting.
like the inflammation is crushing the mitochondria, it's
Yeah.
crushing the quality. And so I think that's what it's doing. It's kind of like bringing things back online. It's almost like what we saw with the NMN or the NAD, it's like, okay, delayed menopause, right? And like menopausal mice came back online and started ovulating again. So, it's also to be argued of like, okay, but does it mean much in the context of just taking this one single nutrient? I don't know. That's what we don't know, but it's
Yeah.
also, in the book too, that's what I did. I created these kind of like mitochondrial supplement stacks, so like not taking everything every day, and just kind of how to stack them and
Hmm.
when, and based on the current data and the dosing, which was cool and fun because it's also a lot. Like I always think about our girls and like how many supplements they're taking or who's doing IVs and injections and things like that. It's like, oh my gosh, it's a lot. I think the BPC 157 is pretty cool. That definitely
Hmm.
has like an overall healing capacity,
Hmm.
and kind of like tissue regeneration, or maybe
Hmm.
regeneration is too promising, but tissue repair
Hmm.
that's been around the longest. So it's like, I know some doctors who are using that, like hands down, that's in my practice for any gut protocol that I need to do. It's going to heal the lining.
Is
Like
that
I've never seen better
injected
results. What was that?
injection
Or
or
even
oral?
orally. Like how I
Uh-huh.
found out about longevity was through a physician friend who he does anti-aging medicine. And he
Hmm.
was the one who told me, he connected me with them. And he's like, I use their BPC 157. They have one
Hmm.
with like PEA in it. And he was like, I've never seen gut health heal faster. So he says.
Wow. Wow.
And he's
That's
been
so
around a very
cool.
long time. Um,
Amazing.
and even like Hyman and Tony Robbins has his centers now too. They're all connected to like one of these oral peptide companies, And the second the peptides are legal in the US, these companies will all start making the actual injections. Like right now, the biggest thing you have to be aware of is the injections that you're taking. If you go to like one of these wellness clinics and they have the BPC 157 or they have, the Kispeptin or the Semarelin, they are importing it from another country. A lot of the times that country is China, and then they're reconstituting it in their labs.
Hmm.
You want to make sure that it's not peptides that are for research purposes, but they're peptides that have actually been like tested for endotoxins and things like that.
Hmm.
So I think it's called pharmaceutical grade versus research grade. But none of these peptides are technically legal in the US. So that like if you're getting them, like, and we're not talking about GLP-1s, we're talking about these other ones. If
Hmm.
you're getting them, you really want to know the source. So that's why
Yeah,
I feel
it's
safer with
important.
my clients saying go to Healthgevity, take
Right.
their oral stuff. Like, is it probably a tenth as effective? Yes, but I don't know. It's still probably doing something. Yeah.
Yeah.
And even for us with the fisetin, like sourcing that and kind of understanding the dosing and all of that, like sure, maybe by the time the new repair product comes out, we'll have it
Hmm.
available in injections as well. But not everybody's down for that, and it's also can be really expensive. I don't know about you. I
Yeah,
looked into
it's
the
a lot
Semarelin.
more tough to
Yeah,
manage.
I looked into the Semarelin. I think through Ageless RX, and it's like I could get a 3 month supply for like $1,000. I was like, that's expensive,
That's nuts. Yeah, very expensive. Yeah, you have to make it realistic for people
Yeah,
to really do consistently.
yeah.
Because otherwise it's tough.
And then also, we just don't honestly have enough data. So we can't say this for certain is going to be the thing that gets you your baby. We can't. No one can. And if anybody is,
Run for
mm,
the hills. Yeah.
it's like, I mean, before we talked, we share some clients, and it's like this one client who came to me, like, It's a colleague or a friend that has this like med spa and literally sent her home with this list of like, these are all the peptides I can inject you with so that you can have a better IVF next time. And I'm happy, sent it to me and asked me for my feedback. And I was like, oh, A, how much is this going to cost you? But B, none of this is guaranteed. Like, it's like, let's be honest with ourselves, And then so we kind of just picked and choose what we thought would maybe be smart to try. But we also don't know how everyone is going to react, just like anything.
Yeah, for sure. And then, what else did I want to ask? I was going to ask. So, talk about peptides. Actually, let's kind of go to that because we brushed upon a couple of different ones. And what are peptides for people who are not familiar with what they are,
I mean,
and how can they
they're
help?
technically exist in our body, right? They're proteins and chains of proteins that exist in our body. And then what we're doing is taking them in at much higher doses, but they're technically like they synergistic is how I would look at it with
Hmm.
our body and our function. So these were isolated compounds that were like, oh, like rapamycin. Oh, this impacts the mTOR pathway. We know this for a fact, so we're going to use it here. So it's created based on physiology and technically should be safe. It's more like the sourcing and the dosing and the individual client.
So, there's different types that do have different functions.
Oh, they all have different
Yeah,
functions,
yeah.
right? Like, I mean, the GLP-1 is the most common, right? So we know it's working on these GLP-1 receptors, which
Hmm.
is helping with insulin regulation in the body. It's a
Hmm.
metabolic, and I think it's magic for the people who need it. We were talking about that before we went live, and it's like in any of my clients, like it's being used more and more, I think, in fertility because so many of our girls have insulin resistance, which is why we've been working on diet and lifestyle with them for so long, and when to eat and how to eat and how much to eat, right? We're fixing insulin resistance is what we've been doing. And now there's this drug that can do it pretty fast, And so, um, but you really, really want to know that you need it because if you take it and you don't need it, it could
Hmm.
backfire. If you take it and you don't follow the right diet and the right lifestyle, it could backfire. And we know
Hmm.
that from a GLP-1 because it's been out for a very long time, but this is the longest it's been like I would say the most amount of people it's being used on in a short period of time. It seems like everyone's taking it. Worry about that. Long-term repercussions. There's a lot we don't know.
Hmm.
I'd liken that to, some said vaccines, same thing, where you're like,
Hmm.
oh, I don't know that I'm playing around with that. Vaccines are different
Hmm.
than peptides, but just that same thing where I'm like, I don't have
Yeah.
enough longitudinal data. I need to collect more information. But like I think GLP-1s are a good example. Like we're learning the best way to live your life while taking it. So not just
Hmm.
that you inject yourself and that's the quick fix and you never have to do
Right.
anything else. If
Yeah.
you do that, I think you can have negative repercussions for sure.
And also the dosage. We
The
were talking
dose.
about that too. In some cases, people would benefit from a microdose
Yeah. I like a
rather than
low and
having like a really high dose.
slow kind of situation, I
Yeah.
think is much more important. Yeah, and I have girls that, are very insulin resistant. Maybe metformin was what was recommended them prior. They're trying the
Hmm.
GLP-1s, they're seeing a good difference. But same thing, we're staying at like either the starting dose or the
Hmm.
microdosing. I mean, I'm not a physician. I can't manage that. I can't prescribe that, but I've learned enough and I work with the physician. And then we are also looking at labs, So, like for instance, I just saw a girl's labs today and they were thinking about giving her GLP-1 for suspected insulin resistance. Her leptin and her insulin are low. I mean, they're below a
Hmm.
3 each. Like she's actually the opposite of the case. Like if
Hmm.
you give it to her, it's going to shut her down. It's like her
Right.
waves are going to go offline
Yes.
because her body's going to be like, oh my god. Like it's almost like at least from what I understand and know, that's how I see that it would go down. I could be wrong. I haven't seen enough of these cases, but it seems to work really well for the people with high fasting glucose. Their A1C is trending up. Their insulin, especially fasting insulin, is high, like above a
Hmm.
10, above an 11 is really, you really want to be in this. Everybody's different, but I would say 4 to 10 range is a good range
Hmm.
for insulin. Fasting glucose, you want it below 90. You see that. That's another. like, here's an interesting story I'll share of like one of my girls. She's actually 47. She has a significant ovarian reserve. Um, like when they do retrieval, she gets like 30 eggs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, she is doing IVF to test for genetics. And, you know, with that many eggs, she felt really confident. But I meet her by the time she's already through like 3 retrievals. And fertilization, like she'd get 28 eggs, like 2 would fertilize. And then
Mm-hmm.
like 1, if it made it, would come back, you know, aneuploid. So,
Did she have PCOS?
but that's the thing, she didn't.
Okay.
Uh, she appeared that way, meaning ovarian wise and high AMH.
Mm-hmm.
She was a very fit, lean woman, like an athlete, a professional athlete. Um, so she could have had it at a younger age, but her lifestyle has like not shown it. But she could be lean PCOS too. Her A1C is perfect though. But so first we changed the medications because they were coming at a really high dose because of how many eggs she had left. So we first cut the meds in half. Same eggs retrieved, fertilization rate like almost went to 50%, which was amazing. But same thing, still keep come back abnormal. Digging into her labs, you could see her fasting glucose started to trend up over the years. And same thing with her insulin started to trend up. We never even checked her leptin, actually, trending up over the years. And even like in this last year, quite a bit. Like I think the IVF meds maybe pushed her kind of over an edge. She tries like a micro dose of a GLP-1. Not even that long, 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
Does another cycle. She had an 80% fertilization rate. She got 2 euploids and 1 low-level mosaic.
Wow.
I mean, granted, I had all,
That's
you
a
know, like
big
she'd been working with
difference.
me maybe for 4
Yeah.
months at that point.
Yeah.
We were on the low stim protocol, but in my, you know,
Yeah.
in my opinion, and
It usually
removing
takes a
myself
little
from the
longer
equation,
for those kind of
that
things.
was insane. Like,
Yeah.
so now we're prepping for a transfer. I mean, she's psyched, you know.
That's
We'll
great.
see. Obviously, like there's all these things, but it's like one example. If you need it, it could be really helpful.
That's
And
amazing.
women in perimenopause, the thing is, we become less and less insulin sensitive. And so when we're treating these women in their 40s, perimenopause is going to kick in different times for different women. But when we're
Mm-hmm.
treating where things are starting to go different or shift a little bit, we should be looking at metabolic health and then thinking about these things. And I still think we could do it ourselves with our herbs and our lifestyle and all our
Mm-hmm.
things. We have that.
Yes.
But I respect efficiency, you know.
Yeah, no, we got to use all the tools that we can get. One quick question, because I know you have to
Yeah.
go. LDN, I remember you talking about
Yeah.
that, and that's an exciting new thing, or it kind of newer. You know, now
Yeah.
people are starting to like learn about it. Again, another type of medicine that at full dose does one thing, but then
Yeah.
at low dose
That's
does
a whole
another.
different thing.
So,
And it's just basically like I just call it like a mini steroid. That's kind of how how I see it. Of just like
mhm,
it's just kind of breaking down this low level chronic inflammation. And you don't necessarily feel like worlds different when you take it,
mhm.
but you see the difference. So for us, and it's been like this, I'd say at least 8 years, you know, every endometriosis patient, if we know she has it,
Mhm.
and then any autoimmune patient. And then now you're starting to see like the fertility doctors are using it. Like I see CNY, it's in every one of their protocols now. Every girl
Mhm.
is on low dose
Yeah.
naltrexone. Um, you know, and the research is cool. And there's that other guy, he's got a bunch of stuff on YouTube. I'm trying to forget his name, but he's really into it from a fertility perspective. I can get you his name for show notes if you want. I just can't think of it in this moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think all of it layered together, but I would also just say of like the template that we start our clients with, you know, and then obviously always looking at male factor, looking at uterine, looking at immune stuff. Like the template is still really important. I think all these things are like, you know, additive,
Add-ons.
yeah, add-ons.
Mhm.
And with the understanding that not everyone is it going to work for everyone, which is the hard part because it's like you'd like a guarantee, especially if you're going to
Of
go
course.
invest money.
But
Um,
humans don't function like that.
But it's still
It's just
like
the
what I
human
still
body.
see in the data, and I know what we both see clinically is like It's consistency and frequency. It's like there's not just like one shot you're going to do and a month later you're going to, get your boobs. I mean, I did just kind of tell a story like that, but like just think she'd been working at this, like she had fine-tuned her diet. Like
Hmm.
she had, like when she came to me, I was kind of like, you don't really need me. I'll give you advice on the IVF and the meds and I'll look at your labs, but like you kind of have things on lockdown. But she was stumped. Why is this not happening? Why is this not happening? And
Hmm.
could have been just that the insulin resistance that was starting to show up was not allowing her body to properly utilize everything she was doing, is
Yeah.
basically what I would say. So now all of a sudden
Yeah.
you help facilitate like proper metabolism and all of a
Right.
sudden the eggs.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it's almost like we were talking about it before. It's almost like a block to your ability to access energy
Yeah,
when you're
100%. That's
insulin
exactly what
resistant.
it is.
Yeah.
It's like right for us, it'd be like dampness. It's like phlegmy,
Yes.
sticky stuff just hanging out in there, not letting things get
Something getting
in.
in the
And
way.
then you put this in and it's like, because even like berberine would be like kind of essentially, and like, what is that to us? That's like a heat clearing medicine. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? It's,
Right.
we're getting through like the wreckage in a sense. We're like almost zapping it out. It's kind of what these GLP-1s are doing.
Yeah, amazing. Aimee, I can always talk to you and pick
I
your brain
know.
for hours. And
It
of
was
course,
great to
Amy's
connect.
my
Thank
mentor,
you.
by the way. I actually do schedule calls with her to get to pick her brain because it helps my practice so much, my
No.
ability to help women. So, like,
Well, and
I'm
I love
so
referring to you.
thankful.
I'm
Like,
always like, I got a Miami girl. Yeah, here we go.
thank you. Same. And of course, I can keep talking to you for hours, but I
I
know
know.
you have to
Yeah,
go.
I have a
You're a
call.
busy woman.
I have people
So
waiting in my reboot group for
yeah,
me.
so thank you so much
Yes.
for coming
Okay.
on. If okay, so where can people find everything, all the
Yeah.
stuff, all the
So
good stuff?
I'll get you the link for pre-orders and things like that for the book. But everything's going to be on my website, aimeeraupp.com. Follow me on Instagram and TikTok. That's where like all the information will be shared. Yeah. And then obviously the book is available anywhere books are sold. Right now it'll only be in English. I'm hoping to do an audiobook as well. And then last time it was published, it did go into a few languages. So hopefully that will be the case as well.
I'm sure it will be
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's such a gift to the world. Thank you so much,
Thank you so
Aimee.
much, my love.
I always
Okay.
love talking to you.
Yeah.
Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.